Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Zeno's Wisdom Have. You ever laid in bed next to someone you love and felt completely alone? They're right there beside you, same bed, same room, same routine, but something's different and no one's saying it out loud. They still kiss you goodnight, they still pour your coffee in the morning, they still sit across the table reading the news or scrolling their phone, but deep down you feel it's something's missing. You find yourself wondering, are we still okay? Not back of a fight or some big betrayal, but because the space between you has changed. Here's the thing most people never talk about. When love fades, it doesn't always explode. It doesn't slam door on its way out. It doesn't yell or cry or pack its bags. No, when love leaves, it often slips out quietly. You didn't hear it go. You just wake up one day and realize the house feels cold even when it's full. It starts with little things, the way they stop looking you in the eyes, the way their voice sounds flat when they say your name, the way the conversations shrink until they're only about groceries, chores, or logistics. Today we're going to walk through 5 of the quietest, most easily overlooked signs that someone may have emotionally checked out before they ever say the words, "I'm done." These signs won't be dramatic, but they will be real, and once you recognize them, you'll start to understand what your heart may have been trying to tell you for a long time. So, I invite you to stay with me until the end, because there's one sign that almost everyone misses, and it just might change how you see your relationship and yourself from this day forward. And if anything in this video touches a part of you, if you hear your own story echoing in these words, go ahead and comment relationship below. Let them know you're here. Let someone else know they're not the only one feeling this. Let's begin. Sign 1: loss of curiosity. What's one of the first things to quietly disappear when love begins? Ton revel. It's not the hugs, not the lotta, not even the conversations based. Sometimes those still happen. It's the questions when someone truly. Sign number 1. Loss of curiosity. Loves you. They want to know you deeply. They ask things that seem small on their surface but mean everything. They want to know what's on your mind when you're quiet. They care how your doctor's appointment went, even if it was just a checkup. They notice when you sit differently or take longer to answer. They lean in because curiosity is connection in motion. But when that love's to dim, so does the interest. They may still respond, but it's mechanical. They might say, unhung, or, oh yeah, but it lands flat. They don't follow up. They don't remember what you told them last week. They don't ask how your sister's doing, or whether you ever finished that book you were excited about. And it's not because you've become boring. It's not because your story accidentally lost their color. It's because the emotional investment is fading slow, and without a sound that's waited and felt. She and Paul had been married over 40 years. She used to tell him everything, how her roses had finally back in bloom, what happened in her book club, and how she wanted to try that new yoga class at the community center. Paul used to smile playfully, tease her, and ask questions that made her feel hard, but lately he barely looked up from the television. He responded with a grin sometimes, not at all. At first she blamed it on stress, a bad day, maybe he went feeling well, but deep down, she knew it wasn't about the roses or the yoga. It was about the space that had quietly crept in between them. The curiosity used to live when someone stops asking you questions. They're no longer trying to step into her world. And over time, it starts to feel like you're living side by side with someone who no longer sees you, really sees you as part of theirs. So, ask yourself, as gently and honestly as you can, have they stopped being curious, and/or have they stopped connecting? And if that thought stings, if it brings a lump to your throat, you're not overreacting. You're responding to something real, because loss of curiosity is random. It's one of the quiet, earliest signs that love has started to let go. Sign 2: decreased patience. There's a kind of love that makes room for the little things. Your quirks, your forgetfulness, the odd way you fold towels, or talk to yourself while cooking dinner. When someone's heart is with you, they don't just tolerate these things, they often find them endearing. Love at its best isn't rigid, it's flexible. It bends where it needs to, it softens instead of snapping. When that kind of love is present, even your imperfections feel safe. You can laugh when you mess up, you can repeat a story, and know they'll. Sign number 2: decreased patience. Smile, not sigh. There's grace, but when thought love starts to slip, something changes. The grace that once surrounded you disappears, and instead every small thing begins to feel like a mistake. You'll bring up the wrong topic at the wrong time. You ask where the keys are. You mention the calendar, and suddenly there's a sharp breath, a tone you aren't expecting, a look that says, really? Again, you can feel the change. Even if they haven't said anything, you start to adjust. You speak more carefully. You rehearse your words in your head before saying them. You hesitate before mending them of something you've already said twice, not because you did anything wrong, but because their patience once so natural and easy is gone. Let me tell you about Helen and Richard. They'd been married for decades. Helen had always been a little forgetful. She could never keep track of hurrying glasses. She'd walk into a room and forget why, and Richard used to chuckle, shake his head, and help her trace her steps like it was part of their dance. But over the years, something in him started to harden. He no longer teased, no longer smiled. Now, he muttered, he snapped, he rolled his eyes, like she was a burden. Same woman, same forgetfulness, but the warmth was gone, and that's what stings the most. Not thought, didn't help her find her glasses, but thought. He stopped wanting to. That's their Al sign, not the annoyance itself, but shift in what it represents. When love is strong, it absorbs the bumps in throat. It turns the misances of daily life into something shared, but when love fades, those same bumps feel like small thing becomes a source of frustration, and you start to feel like you're in the way. It's not just about a raised voice or a cold reply, it's about how much you miss the way they used to look at you when I used to say something silly. It's about how heavy the air feels now when you speak, and it's about the ache in your chested whispers. They used to enjoy me, now they endure me. If you felt that shift, if you're constantly checking yourself, ranking your words, apologizing for simply existing, take a deep breath. It's not weakness, it's awareness. You're feeling the weight of something real, that quiet loss of patience that used to feel like love, and that's why you need to keep watching, because the next sign might be even harder to face. It's when shared time stops feeling shared. At all sign 3, lack of shared time. Time doesn't just vanish, it gets redirected. It finds new homes, new distractions, new priorities, and when someone starts spending less of it with you, not because they have to, but because they choose not to, that's when something begins to crack beneath the surface. It's rarely about hours in a day, it's about behind those hours when love is present. People find time, even a few quiet minutes at the end of the day can feel like connection when it's shared with care, but when love starts to pull away, the time you used to spend together starts slipping through your hands. It's not dramatic, it's not announced, it just fades. They get up earlier and leave without a word. They stay later at work or start taking longer walks alone. They watch a show in sign number 3. Lack of shared time, another room, or scroll through their phone while you sit nearby, unnoticed, and the conversations that once filled fast space between you shrink into brief exchanges about bills, errands, and what's for dinner. Let me tell you about James and Anita. They had this sweet tradition. Evening after dinner, they'd walk the same route through their neighborhood. Sometimes they talked, other times they simply walked in silence, hand in hand. It wasn't grand, but it was theirs. It was a way to say, I'm here, you matter to me. Over time, that rhythm changed. Anita began to notice that James was heading out without her. He'd say things like, you look tired, or I didn't want to bother you. The words seemed thoughtful at first, but after a while they felt like excuses, and it started happening more often. And it didn't say anything right away. She didn't want to seem needy or paranoid, but the walk stopped. The quiet connection was gone, and with it something much deeper began to unravel. They still shared a roof, they still ate meals, but the emotional glue that you set to hold those routines together had thinned out. And the hardest part, she still loved him. She just wasn't sure. I've still felt the same way. That's Theech. So many people live with your note alone. Maybe you felt it too, sitting on the couch together, but feeling like you're on opposite sides of the worlds, saying good morning, but wondering if they actually noticed your voice. Wondering if their distance is about them or about you. Here's what you need to know when someone starts drifting. They don't always mean to hurt you, but when they stop including you in their time, whether it's a 10-minute chat or a weekend plan, they're communicating them in loud and clear, even if they didn't realize it. So take a quiet momento, ask yourself, do they still choose me when it comes to the simple ordinary minutes, or am I just someone they pass by in the background of their day? Might be painful, but it's powerful, because sometimes the hardest truth to face is that someone can still present in your life and yet no longer be with you. And what comes next, what we'll talk about in the next part, is what happens when they stop letting you into not just their time, but their inner world, their thoughts, their feelings, the pieces of themselves they once shared freely. When that closes off, silence doesn't just grow louder, it becomes permanent sign for emotional withdrawal. There's a turning point in every relationship that's beginning to unravel. and most people don't recognize it when it happens. It's not loud or dramatic. No one storms out, no one screams. It's far more subtle and far more painful. It's the moment you realize the person you love has stopped letting you in. They still go through the motions, they still sit at the table, still ask if you want anything from the store, still sleep beside you, but the emotional doors sign, number Y. Emotional withdrawal while they're shut, and you didn't even heart them close. You ask how their day was, and they say fine. You ask what's on their mind, and they reply nothing. They haven't changed on the outside, but you can feel the shift in your gut. It's like reaching out to hold their hand and realizing you're grabbing air. You're not the one they confide in anymore. You're not the person they go to when they're overwhelmed or afraid or excited about something small. You used to be their sounding board, their safe place. Now it feels like they're having a full life and you're only getting the headlines. That's what emotional withdrawal looks like, and it hurts not just because they've gone quiet, but because they used to let you in and now they don't. You wrestle in the same space, but no longer of their internal world, their fears, their frustrations, their small joys. They hold them privately now, and that one that's quietly gone up between you gets taller each day. You pretend not to see it. Let me tell you about Linda and Mark Merritt. For over 25 years, Steve built a life around sharing everything, good, bad, in between. When Mark's job got stressful, Linda was the one he vented to when he had health concerns. She was the first to know. When lost his dad, she sat beside him and held his hand through the tears, but somewhere along the way that trust started to fade, not because of a fight or a crisis. It just faded. Mark's to picking. Not completely, but enough to make Linda feel the distance. He started handling things alone, getting bad news, keeping thoughts to himself, and when she asked what was going on, he brushed it off with, "I'm just tired," or, "Don't worry about it." But Linda did worry because she could feel it in the silence. He wasn't cold, he wasn't angry, he was just absent, and that absence, even in the middle of daily life, made her feel completely alone. This kind of withdrawal is quiet. It doesn't slam doors or cause fights, it just closes off the little windows where intimacy used to live. It's when someone stops making space for you in their heart, even if they still make space for you on the couch. And her hardest truth, when someone no longer turns to you emotionally, it's not because you stopped being trustworthy, it's often because they've stopped seeing emotional closeness as necessary. That doesn't mean they don't care, but it does mean something in the relationship shifted. So ask yourself, when was the last time they opened up to me about something real? When was the last Timothy came to me first? If you can't remember, that's your answer. And if this feels familiar, I hope you know you're not crazy, and you're not imagining it's simply recognizing that the closeness you once had has started to fade. In the next part, we'll talk about something even more difficult. What happens when love not only pulls away emotionally but physically, because when Simone stops reaching for you, that's when silence turns into something you can feel in your bones. Sign 5: physical disconnection. When love begins to fade, it doesn't always speak in words. More often, it shows up in what's no longer there. In things you don't feel anymore. There's a kind of silence that's louder than any argument, and it lives in the space between two bodies that use torch for each other without hesitation. The shift happens quietly. You go to hold their hand and they pull away, not seen. Number way, physical disconnectionly, just enough to remind you that something has changed. You lean in for aucuses, and it feels obligatory. A quick peck, a distracted gesture, not the warmth it used to carry. Touch used to be its sound kind of language. It used to say, "I'm here with you." It said, "I care." It said, "You're still the person I choose." You didn't have to ask for a hug, because it came naturally. You didn't think twice about sitting close on the couch, but skillslessness wasn't a question. But when Simone starts to disconnect, emotional ire body follows. They stop reaching out. They stop sitting beside you when you're watching TV. They stop rubbing your back as they pass by, or placing a hand on yours just because, and they didn't even realize they've stopped because for them, the instinct is gone. That automatic urge to connect to near you has slowly unraveled. Let me tell you about Gloria and Reed. For most of their marriage, Reed would kiss Gloria on the forehead every night before bed. It was a small thing, something you might have heard, but to Gloria it meant everything. It was his way of saying, "One, I see you." Even when the day was long, or the words weren't many, it was the last soft moment they shared before sleep. But then one night, the kiss didn't come, and then it didn't come the next night, or the night after that. At first Gloria chalked it up to him being tired or preoccupied. She gave him space. She didn't want to make a big deal out of something so small, but as time passed, other things disappeared too. He stopped it sitting close to her in the evenings, has stopped, wrapping his arms around her while she made coffee. The little gestures that once said I love you, without speaking a word, were gone, and the silence they left behind wasn't just in the air, it was in her heart. She felt like her body was suddenly unwelcome, like her touch had become a burden, and even though he hadn't said a single harsh word, she felt rejected. Just Thesum, here's the part most people don't say out loud. When emotional closeness fades, physical touch becomes awkward. It starts to feel like you're reaching a distance that wasn't there before. And when you're the only one reaching, it begins to feel like Amastocket. That's when the rejection really settles in, not because they pushed you away, but because they stopped pulling you in. You begin to wonder, is it me? Am I too much? Now too needy? But the truth is you're craving something that used to be natural between you, and now it feels like you're asking for permission just to be close. That's not love, that's loneliness in disguise. And if you're always the one initiating touch, always the one leaning in, while they lean back, you'll eventually start to question your worth. But you need to hear this. You are not too much wanting closeness, wanting connection, wanting to be held. Those are conclusion. What these signs really mean: human needs, not weaknesses. You deserve it. Hope. Be with someone who reaches for you not out of routine, but because they still feel pulled to you. Someone who still sees your presence as a comfort, not a chore, because real love doesn't reaching even after years, even after arguments, even after life gets complicated, it still chooses you. So if you've noticed the touch has faded, if the BAFTA feels invisible next to the person who used to hold it like homeless, and to that feeling it's telling you something true. And in a moment we're going to pull all of this together, every quiet sign, every small shift, and talk about what it means and what you can do from here. Because recognizing it is the beginning of clarity, and clarity isn't about blame, it's about honesty. And that kind of honesty might just be the most loving thing you can offer yourself. Maybe, as you've been listening, you recognized one of these signs. Maybe it was just one small shift that hit a little too close to home, or maybe you saw yourself in every single one. And if that's the case, take a deep breath, because this video wasn't made to hurt you. It wasn't meant to leave you feeling broken. It was meant to help you give words to something your heart has probably been whispering for a while. Most relationships don't fall apart in an instant. They drift, they stretch, and wear thin over time. Not because people are bad, but because life is hard. And sometimes the people we love the most slowly stop showing up in the ways we used to. Count on the silence between two people can grow louder than any argument. And when affection fades, when the timid touch and tenderness begin to disappear, it's easy to start wondering if it's all in your head. But it's not that ache you've been feeling, that emotional emptiness. It means something, and if nothing else, I hope this video helped you see that you're not crazy, and you are certainly not alone. You deserve a love that still sees you, that still chooses you, that still listens, not out of obligation, but because your voice still matters to them. And if that's not what you have right now, then maybe the next chapter isn't about fighting for someone else's effort, but returning to your own self-worth. So, I want to ask you, Nestle, what part of this was you the most? Was it the silence, the distance, the lack of warmth? Let me know in the comments. Just write the number, or say, I felt this. I read every single message, and I know someone out there might need to see your story to feel seen in their own. If this spoke to your heart, please hit the like button. Though one small click helps this message reach someone else who might be silently struggling. And if you'd like to keep exploring these kinds of conversations, don't forget to subscribe, because Hiru talk about the stuff people often hide, but we say it gently, the way real life feels. Until we meet again, be kind to yourself. You're not asking for too much, you're asking for something real, and you deserve a love that never goes